Greetings, spooky adventurers, and welcome to Dungeons and Dragons and Discussions, the show where we have some lovely friends, acquaintances, and fellow adventurers talking about all things D&D. And of course, it is Nopenovember. If you haven't been paying attention, I don't know what to tell you. You just need to just go back and watch all the other videos that I have up. That is of all the spooky things. Joining me today is... That was my dice. Joining me today is guest stars Mary, Beth, and Micah. Say hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Today's topic is we are talking about monsters, but a very specific a problem for me, actually. I feel like certain monsters in D&D don't live up to their names. Some of them do, however. I'll get into that later. But certain monsters, for example, like zombies. Zombies are actually pretty weak in the D&D world, even though that they are such a popular trope to use in movies and horror games and everything else in between. Oh, books, horror novels as well. But in D&D, an undead, easy. 22 hit points, armor class of 8. This sucker's going down. I think the only nice thing about the undead is like that. Yeah, the undead fortitude, if it makes a constitution saving throw, it can get back up. But besides that, zombies are pretty weak. So the topic for today is making a player's life that much more difficult. The topic and the main question is how to make weak monsters scary. So Micah and Mary Beth, opening statements.
I didn't realize this was a debate.
No. Just first thing that comes to your head when I ask you, hey, how would you make weaker monsters scary?
Okay, well, with your example specifically, even though we don't have to be talking about zombies in the entire video. Your example specifically, zombies in movies are not always scary until they are in a swarm. In D&D, if you give your players a swarm of zombies, it better be a setting in which the zombies are numerous and you have to be managing that. Outside of that context, if you run into a few zombies on their own, yeah, of course they're not going to be scary. The scare comes in the horde. So if you're looking at, I want to take some of these weak monsters that people have ideas about or they don't have ideas about, but they see that these go down really easy, and yeah, they have a scary ability, but it takes a lot to actually make that happen. If your goal is to scare someone with these weak monsters, just put a bunch of them in there.
I do love swarm tactics. That is the magic deck that I use. So what if we didn't want to go a swarm route specifically? What if you wanted just what if we wanted to just have a singular monster, but it's still a weak zombie? What could you do then?
Okay, if it's still a zombie,
or anything. Sorry, we're staying on the zombie.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
This is transferable, so whether it's a zombie or not, one of the things about zombies is that the idea of the zombie is relentless. You might be able to survive this wave or this one that you've come across, but you will run into others. And you can adapt that for other monsters that are weak. There is a prevailing threat. You might run into these certain monsters anytime you're traveling, there's a chance that anything you interact with might be a mimic, right? That's a bit terrifying. Whenever the DM says, "Did you touch the spoon?" It's why? What's wrong with the spoon? It's a mimic, right?
It reminds me of a good joke. A traveler walks into a bar and he carrying a sword and he sits down on his table. The bartender comes over and is like, "Why do you have your sword on you?" The adventurer goes, "Mimics." The adventurer laughed. The bartender laughed. The table laughed. The adventurer kills the table. It was a good day. I love that joke. I love that. Okay. All right. Mary Beth, let me get your 2 cents in on this.
One of the most important parts for making any monster scary, no matter their level, is the storyline leading up to the monster.
Mm-hmm.
There's no point in fighting. Your players are just going to run away if you're talking about role-playing games, unless they have a plotline reason to fight said monster. Upon occasion, even if you have built a plotline, they will still run away. But the idea, especially around zombies or skeletons or smaller things that often work better in swarms, like Micah said, if you need them to be as one-offs, the setup of, oh, you don't know what's coming. It could be, I don't know, a mind flayer, and it ends up being a zombie. But the lead up to getting there made them scared of the unknown monster. So sometimes it's more the fear of not knowing what's coming, even leading up to, it really is just a zombie that we can kill in 2 hits. But the lead up part of it made it scary at the beginning. And sometimes that's more important than it actually being scary when they're fighting it.
Okay. So you brought up something actually about like them walking in and being like, oh, it's just a zombie. But do you think that like taking a weaker monster and then giving it an abnormal ability, could it potentially give it a more dangerous, fearful type of vibe to it? Like maybe when you kill the monster, the zombie, it like as it's dying, it can deal like an additional. It can like try to lash out and deal like an assassin strike that the rogue feature where it deals extra damage.
Personally, as a DM, love the concept of after death damage, that you've dealt the final blow, it's dead, and then something else happens, whether it's something in the environment or something with the body. And that could be played across the board with, like, you know, your big bad evil guy infected the zombie with this thing. So now you're adding a scare tactic of, oh, if we ever find a zombie again, it's actually going to do way more damage than we thought it would, but also impacting the scare factor of whatever your big bad guy is.
Mm-hmm.
By allowing your storyline, your end person or ending fight, whatever is going to be in that fight, to impact smaller, weaker NPCs along the way, means that your characters are going to start being scared of all of the NPCs, not just the big bad guy at the end.
Yes, something even. That was a stall. That was a brain stall. Even if, you know, you kill the monster, maybe the monster can lash out and kill like the party's favorite pet or something like that, and caught it. And I'm listening to Critical Role's Mighty Nine, and one of the characters, Jester, has a weasel and a dog. The dog she put it's a blink dog actually. The dog she actually put with is staying with one of the other characters' husbands, but the weasel is just with her the entire time, and like every now and then she'll like check it and feed it and whatnot. But like I'm just waiting for the day where she checks it. Is like, oh, what's his name? Sprinkle. She named the weasel Sprinkle. When she checks on Sprinkle and Sprinkle's dead. It'd be so sad. Anyways, yeah, no. So one of the like typical zombies in like video games is a oh man, they go through so many names. A creeper, you know, like from Minecraft, where you deal damage to them and they blow up. It's such a dangerous little thing right there. But anyways, Micah, any additions to add in regards of like giving weaker monsters abnormal abilities that they would not have?
I think usually when you're looking at that tactic, it comes in relation to your players are usually like not afraid of stuff enough, even with other tactics, or they're like murder hobo style players. So
Yeah.
you want to kind of give them something that they weren't expecting, that probably won't overpower them, but at the same time will make them like take pause and be like, oh, maybe I do need to think about this a little bit. Players like that, honestly, or ones that know a lot about the game, so like they might know the weaknesses, and that meta sneaks in to how they gameplay. Like swap out the weaknesses. You don't necessarily need to do like something big and extra.
Or
Mhm.
just
You can just
mixing up stat
yep.
blocks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stat block switching is really good, especially for players that do meta or have a hard time uh, separating their own knowledge as a
Yeah.
player to a character, because I find that a lot of players that do know the meta try to be like, well, my character wouldn't know that, and then they don't really experiment to and they're like relying on, okay, there's other new players once they figure it out. But if it's an entirely different stat block, they kind of have the freedom to start experimenting and find out what it is, just knowing that like this thing might have a weakness. It's not the standard one. We need to figure it out. Then they can contribute to figuring it out actively. So I don't know. I think it's good to swap stat blocks to surprise people, to allow those people who are being really careful about their meta some freedom to engage fully with the combat. And you don't have to do something crazy um that might unbalance the party versus the enemies in ways that you didn't foresee.
Yeah. Another option, depending on your comfortability as a DM, if that's the perspective we're coming at this from, is homebrewing something that looks like a zombie, but isn't. Homebrewing something that looks like a skeleton, but isn't. Or giving their quote unquote basic abilities more power, changing their stat block.
Mhm.
For example, having a werewolf inflict lycanthropy on a different number than they should,
Mhm.
or more often than they should, to make, okay, it's just a werewolf, feel a lot more intense, because if one player gets infected, oh, the whole party could get infected and it could turn into
Mhm.
a whole thing.
Also, if you know you have a player that is down for the werewolf bite, right? But others aren't, having the werewolf be um not like overruled by their werewolf instincts and hunting one of the players that does not want to get that bite,
Yeah.
like that could bring on some interesting stuff to make sure everyone's like extra scared, and even the person who's like, yeah, bring on the werewolf, ideally they don't want another player to have to turn into a werewolf if they don't want to.
Werewolves are so
So there could
strong.
be a source of tension and like care, rather than let's run at it and I'll body block if
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
enemy wolf is like, I don't want to bite you, I want to bite that person specifically, and I will go down trying.
So
Yeah.
that is one thing that I wish we had more of, is more infection slash disease type of ability. Yeah, I know it's weird. I
Okay.
know.
There's a lot of ways to get sick.
Yeah. definitely not didn't deal with a pandemic in the past couple of years. No, but no. So one thing that bothers me is that in with like the zombie stat block, there isn't anything that really talks about like an infection, because typically zombies are raised from the dead via magic. So magical zombies tend to not be able to infect other people rather than biological or like
Mm-hmm.
chemically created zombies. That's something that I notice a lot with anything. The only thing that changes that is werewolves, because lycanthropy is a curse, a magical curse, and therefore but it still can be passed on to other people and other hosts. So I feel like giving just like an infection or something, like even if it's not going to transform into like a zombie or an ooze or something, that still is like a little like a disease that like basically you're exhausted and you can't get that back even if you long rest
I think the
or move
idea
curse.
of lower level NPCs and monsters carrying curses or carrying cursed items that they could use is another effective way to make those monsters stronger. But it's like a post stronger. Like you don't know until they're dead and until you're cursed that they were stronger than you thought they were.
Mm.
Another thing that I just thought of is using low-level monsters when your characters have low HP. Any kind of combat at low HP is scary, but
Yep.
the odds of lower level monsters killing them, unless you're going for a TPK, but it provides a level of scare that is less intense
Mm-hmm.
and can often fit into a plot line better of like, we're going to rest, that's where we're headed, something else happens.
Yeah.
We're going to rest, we're
That's
going to rest,
especially
something happens.
effective when, even if their HP isn't low, but their resources are drained. Like, I played in your campaign, I played a character that was secretly like working against the party, and even though
Dun dun
he was friends,
dun.
he was sabotaging by creating these fake scenarios that caused, like, illusions basically, that caused people to waste their magic, and kept on delaying long rests and short rests and being like, no, we can handle what's coming up next, because then he wouldn't technically be like
At
hurting
fault.
his friends, and if they were stupid, that was their fault. That's how he wrote it off.
Rude.
But that another way to scare people is to reduce their resources and make sure that the plot line of we need to do something right now, or like having civilians at risk if they don't do something and figure that out. Like, if they take a long rest, that long rest in itself is scary, because who are they going to wake up and hear died overnight?
Wait, that's a game
like
of
stuff
Mafia
like
right
that.
there. Oh, I love that game.
Another thing I've been doing with a couple of players is I've been having authority figures in their life send them messages privately, sometimes in front of the group, and like just putting a little bit of pressure on them. I've also been, there's one character that I have a whispers channel with, specifically because they have some mental issues going on because of a disease they have, and just randomly popping in there and doing creepy messages, just reminding someone like, you might be in control right now, but bad things can happen at any moment. So like, never really being able to settle into the comfortable of role play heavy sessions, being safe, like the idea of safety being removed, just because anything can happen at any time, whether it's a monster or not.
Ooh.
Yeah, removing the concept of safety and intensifies the scariness factor of anything.
Okay.
I think
No, sorry, no, keep going.
I can think of multiple scenarios where that have happened in campaigns that I've run or been part of, where you remove all sense of rescue or escape, that can make even the lowest level monsters, especially if they keep coming. Another effect of that swarm tactic is not having 40 of them all at once. It's, we killed 5, we're good to go, 5 more show up, right? Where it's like a in waves. Is that the right way to put it?
Yeah.
Yep.
That gets them on this like up and down emotional of we got him, and then there's more, we got him, we got unexpected. I know there's like some video games where it's like set up like that in waves.
Imagine they run into that and they've been hearing rumors about like armies of, like, I'm just gonna say ghouls because we were talking about zombies.
I like that one.
It's not very
Ghouls.
creative, but ghouls sound like armies of ghouls. And you
ghouls?
run into 5 of them, and you keep running into 5 of them, and then you get trapped. And like the rumors build up. Oh my gosh, there might actually be an army of ghouls. How long is this gonna last? You guys, we can't do this forever.
Yeah, that's a great one.
We have to fight our way out. We can't stay here and just hope they stop coming.
And that's another one that's storyline driven and takes time to build up. Like, you can't just come into a session and be like, oh, I want them to be scared of ghouls today. You had to have built that up over the last 5 or 6 sessions to make them scared in this scenario.
So I had 2 other questions I wanted to ask, and I guess I'll ask this right now is, what helps establish the fear better? Issues in combat or issues in roleplay? storytelling. Like,
Jonah, your character. Let me back up. In the game that I'm running with you, and Mary Beth, both as players.
Mhm.
Mary Beth was in the original group that was a lot smaller before you came on, and there was a rumor going around that there was a ship eating ships.
mm-hmm.
And I think that came up maybe twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then months later, you guys hear it again as you're getting ready to go on a ship. I just barely mention it,
Wait,
and you picked up on it.
This was brought up before?
We go aboard the ship.
You should have said.
Real? I've been planting rumors about a lot of different things, and that helps narratively because it's like, okay, we're dismissing this. And then you hear that rumor again, so foreshadowing, you're the only person who was like, this might be real. And you freaked out people aboard the ship because of it. Until the captain said, you can't take all the rumors seriously. And that's like very important. And then what happens? A ship-eating ship comes up.
Yep. I made one of the
everyone's like, oh, that was real.
I made one of these sailors pass out.
That makes it a lot scarier too, because people have been talking about it, which means people have seen it, people have survived it, people have not survived it. What are you gonna do? This seems like a bigger deal now because you've heard the story about it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost
this is not me confirming it's a weak monster.
Mm-hmm. just the concept.
Giant mimic.
I made it weaker, I promise.
She shrunk it.
The concept of or the like story of the boy who cried wolf, right? Where over and over he says, there's a wolf, there's a wolf, there's a wolf, and no one believes him. That's what rumors do. Till you get to the point where your players are like, oh, there really is this thing, and we now have to do something about it. So you have like either the rumors can get them scared of something ahead of time, or they can just keep dismissing the rumors until it shows up, and then they're terrified in the moment.
Yeah, rumors are good no matter how your players handle
Absolutely.
them or
okay.
dismiss them.
There's just different options.
And your party may set up.
Yeah, and your party may feel differently about it. Like, you may have some people in your party, like Jonah's character, who are like, this is real. And other players who are like, dude, we've been hearing this since we were 15.
Play opportunity too. It's so amazing to watch that.
Yeah. I'll definitely have questions to be like, wait, you heard about this before and you didn't think it... You knew we had to travel on the ocean. You didn't think you maybe bring this up, that you heard about this before? It's all good. It's fine.
But now your character is really focused on the ship, and another character jumped off the ship to go deal with it, thinking it's a big problem. Might be. But now once she jumped off and ran, she revealed other monsters that you know are a big problem because of previous experience.
The swarms again.
Yeah, swarms of... I'm not confirming this is a weak monster.
No, of course not. They're just great examples since it's current.
It's not an illusion. I shot at it with a cannon. It's definitely not an illusion. Thank goodness.
Well, speaking of illusions, that's another great way to scare your players. It's momentary frightening, dependent upon what abilities your players have and what they can or can't see through.
I don't want to talk about illusions specifically because we're supposed to focus on weaker monsters. Now, maybe
weaker monsters can cast illusions.
I don't know. So I don't know what happened. The line of weak versus strong, I don't know like what is gonna push a weak monster into the strong category.
Some illusions are cantrips.
Yeah, like minor illusion. Yeah.
To be quite fair, this is also dependent upon your player's level.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Like, what is a terrifying monster for them at level 1, they can handle just fine at level 10.
Well, that's actually a great point, Mary Beth. We should talk about... That's actually an extremely good point. So, at the very beginning of one of our friends' campaigns, we were level 3, so we had all of our, like, subclasses and everything figured out. So, Mary Beth was a druid, and we went up against... a zombie cow. A zombie cow. Is there an actual stat block? No, it's just a regular.
It was a homebrew.
It was just a regular cow stat block or bull stat block. One of the others. It might have been a bull.
But the only way to defeat it is by tipping it.
Yes. No. Oh.
Well,
wait. Actually, that's a really great idea. It's having a weak monster who you know is weak, but
It's a puzzle.
So that you go up and you're like, stab, 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 and it goes down and then pops back up. And then you're like, oh, and then maybe people are wasting spells and abilities to try to kill it.
Which makes the next thing a lot scarier.
Yep. So there you go. That's a really great. I love taking my very first one shot was using the meme about the snail that you are immortal, but there's a snail following you, and if it touches you, you instantly die. So someone made a D&D stat block about it, and it was just an unkillable monster that really didn't do anything, but if it touched you, you died if you were its target. So trying to figure out a way, they were locked in a room and they were trying to figure out how to kill it, and because they needed to kill it in order to escape. And that was fun. It was my first one shot, so it was a little bumpy. It is on the channel if you want to go check it out. I think it's just called The Challenge. I'll put it in the description. But yeah, I like the idea of, oh, it's a weak monster. Oh, well, it just can't die because of something. I like that idea. But anyways, going back to Mary Beth's dilemma of our first fight ever, Mary Beth's first fight ever in D&D period, because this happened in her very first campaign. Mary Beth's character was one-shotted by a cow, because the cow has that ability, if it charges 20 feet it is forward in a straight line and then attacks, it can roll an additional 2d6 damage. Mary Beth's lovely druid didn't have a whole lot of HP and just got absolutely gored by this cow. And the cow only has like 15 hit points. You can a well-placed Eldritch Blast or Firebolt or whatever can kill it, but it just happened to just get one good shot off, and that's all it needed. So yeah, I love that. All right, the last question that I have about this is, do you think that the scare factor increases if the party knows? You talked about like meta knowledge. Do you think it's scarier if the party knows everything about the monsters and its abilities, or does not know about it?
I think if it's a weak monster, no, because the definition of weak, you would know that it's weak. It wouldn't be scary.
That's fair.
The unknown, I think, is scarier when it is specifically a weak monster. If it's a strong monster and they know literally everything it can do, that becomes terrifying.
Yeah. Well, want to expand.
I think it's both for strong monsters. But if we're speaking, because like there's a factor of both. The unknown is scary across the board at any level.
Across the board.
And the known is scary if you as a person, aside from your player, don't like or are afraid of those abilities.
Or you feel threatened by it.
Or you feel threatened by them, or you think that your character is threatened by them, or your character is weak to them, that you're going to be scared of that monster. The lair actions of an adult dragon are terrifying to most players because they know how much damage it can do. So it's a matter of, yes, they know, and so it's scary, or you give them some cow that they've never fought before and they have no idea what it can do, and it's also just as scary.
You could also do like some type of like psychological warfare of like they're fighting, they like know there's a threat attacking like a town, but they don't know what it is, and they go in and it's like it's a bunch of like sentient cotton balls attacking everyone, because apparently people have phobias of cotton balls, so you could like do. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if that's like a line that you're allowed to cross
Until
of like bringing
you got
in.
there, I was going to say that is the DM's job. Often is psychological warfare in a kind and loving dungeon master way.
Mhm.
Yeah, like knowing what the characters' motives are, what they like, what
Right.
they're so driven to, like if they lost their chance at attaining a goal, or if they lost something that was important to them, like that would be scary to them, the idea of losing that. So you could do like visions. There's certain creatures that do visions of your worst nightmare to
Yeah.
freak you out and like get you to run away or not be able to see them escape, right? Like
Is that
Yeah.
literally just mares? Is that what they're? Is that what the monsters are called? Is the mares?
There are lots of things that can do that, I'm pretty sure.
That's not in here.
players even have spells to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can also, like, even if it is a weak monster, it is literally just called a nightmare. Although it doesn't say that it can.
Oh, the ghost horse one?
Yeah, well, it's a fiery looking. I'll put a picture of it. It's a fiery looking thing, just called the nightmare, but it doesn't have anything that causes like illusions and whatnot. And it apparently can. It knows common and infernal, but cannot speak. I mean, I guess that makes sense. But anyways, you could tie in some backstory stuff, like maybe the character's parents was killed by a goblin or like a slime or something like that, and that
very same one is looking them in the eyes as they wake up.
Well, I wouldn't know about that. I don't know what the lifespan.
Poised to attack.
I don't know what the lifespan of a slime is. I don't think it's very long.
This one lives forever.
Forever, exactly.
The forever ooze.
That's part of the joy of being a DM, is being able to, 1, know your players, 2, know their characters and why they're playing those characters, and 3, build the campaign in a way that is thrilling, scary, and entertaining at the same time for the players that you are DMing for. And that changes every time you change your players. Every time a character dies and a new one comes in, it changes the way that you have to think about it, because that character now has new motives.
Okay.
And new ambitions.
You can even take a character into a new setting and everything changes for that character. So
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I did. This wasn't one of the questions I was going to ask, but now I do. Do you think it's crossing the line if you take, like, not something like hardcore that the player is afraid of, but if you take something like, that they don't specifically like zombies or oozes, so you have them go up against that, do you think that's crossing a line? Or
so I think you're bringing up a good point of consent. I think if you are doing something that you are specifically trying to make the player squirm, you need to have the conversation about, like, how much detail do you even want this included at all? Like, I want to make you uncomfortable, but what's off the table? Like, for me, if a sloth shows up, I'm gonna say, all right, I need a break. You guys keep going. I'm not
I'll
gonna
come back when you've taken care of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't turn into a relic sloth when I was playing that druid, because it had some interesting abilities, but yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's also knowing your players, and then also making sure that your players feel comfortable saying, "Hey, DM, can you take 5 minutes and reflavor this monster so that it's not this thing because I did not tell you because I didn't think it was going to come up." Like, being able to have that conversation.
Or building like the line and veil system, where it's like, hey, this is something that might be in the campaign, or things like that. Okay.
And I think that's one of the most important parts of being a DM for me specifically, has been knowing my players. Not necessarily outside the campaign. Sometimes you only know the people that you're playing with because you're playing with them, but being able to have them trust you. And I've seen it happen where they don't trust you and no one enjoys it. So if your players can trust you as a DM to do exactly what Micah just said, to be able to hold on, I need a pause, and be able to say that in front of the whole group and to the DM of, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this, instead of pushing through because they don't trust their DM, that is scary in like a non-consensual way is the best way to put it.
Mhm.
So having those consent conversations about scary things, knowing what your players' phobias are that may come up in D&D. If someone really does have a phobia of zombies, all right, we're not going to have zombies in this campaign. And that kind of like thought process, or where is your line on zombies? If I say there's a zombie, are you good? If I don't describe it, are you good?
If I turn all of the zombies into green raccoons, like, are we still okay if they have the same abilities, or like
just
is it
look
the
different.
abilities that are the problem too?
I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't think I'd be able to
exactly.
handle green raccoons.
Green raccoons. I love that. It's being able to have the conversations with your players where you can scare them in a way that is fun and entertaining and enjoyable, but not to the point where they can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
And that can be a fine line depending on what people are scared of. And you're playing with multiple people who all have different fears.
Okay. All right, then. Well, that is all the questions I have, and we are running out of time, so that's okay. But any final statements that you two would like to make?
Never threaten to take away someone's treats, in game or out of game.
That's a great closing line.
Look, I've got so many people, so many characters that really care about this one specific treat. Like, I played a goblin that loved his butter. Tegan, another character in our campaign that we're in together, he loves the cookies that are offered at an inn that has a bunch of different locations. But yeah, is constantly asking for muffins.
Correct.
Yeah, just let people have treats.
Adventurers have to go through some very stressful situations. They need their comfort food. It just helps.
Absolutely.
It just helps. All right. Well,
that's where we draw the line.
Yes. That is our line. Do not take away the good stuffs, the good foods. But thank you, Micah and Mary Beth, for joining me for this discussion. And thank you, everyone else, for joining us. That is the wrong outro because it is Nopenovember. And hopefully all of you dungeon masters out there have got some nice ideas that you can throw at your players. Yes, making them scared is your job now. But obviously, you still want them to play, so don't make them scared to the point where they run away and never come back. But at the same time, yes, make them scared. But anyways, thank you for joining us for this spooky conversation. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe and come back here for all the other nope-filled videos that we have for the rest of this month. As always, I am rikquasar, and this has been myself, Mary Beth, and Micah. And all of you out there, are you ready to say nope once again?